In this video, we're going to talk about 6 reasons why capital raising is a bad idea for your business.
Welcome to Let's Rethink Business, presented by Dale Beaumont and brought to you by businessblueprint.com.
Now, before we get started, I want to say I realize this video will be a bit controversial, but quite frankly, I don't care. I'm sick of saying nothing and seeing the consequences, so I've decided to basically share my opinion and put it out there. Here goes. There seems to be this unhealthy obsession right now, particularly amongst young entrepreneurs, about the desire to raise capital to fund the growth of a business. Proponents of capital raising generally talk about examples like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, and they say, well, look, if they can do it, so can you, almost as if these entities are an everyday occurrence. But for every YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, there's thousands of other businesses that raise capital from investors, even some of them from family and friends, and then that business goes bust. Now, of course, I know there's a time and place to raise capital, and I'm fully aware of all the reasons why you should. However, the majority of people that I see raising capital are doing so prematurely and are probably doing themselves and their business more harm than good. So instead of dreaming about ways you can spend someone else's money, my advice to you is to focus on ways that you can make your own money. Having put my opinion out there, I'm now going to further this conversation, and I'm now going to give you 6 reasons why not to raise capital in your business. Number 1, it makes you lazy. In my early days of business, I wish I had a rich father like Lachlan Murdoch. I thought to myself, if I had a rich dad, then I could go out there and get in a really impressive office, I could hire the best branding specialists, and I could get a whole bunch of staff that would do all the work for me. Looking back, I'm so glad I didn't have any of those things, because it forced me to get creative and learn how to make money. As an example, when I wrote my first book many years ago, I decided I wanted to self-publish, which meant that I had to cover an $18,000 printing bill. So rather than taking on investors, what I decided to do was to hustle and to go out there and to pre-sell books to corporates. And what that meant was I was able to raise money, and that helped me fund the printing. Now, if I'd gone out there and got investors, I would never have built those muscles, and I would never have been able to go on to fund 15 more books in the next 3 years. So to sum up my point here, if you can't make money without money, you'll never make money with money. Number 2, it distracts your focus. A few years ago, I watched someone go on a capital raising quest. This person somehow convinced themselves that the only way that they could succeed in their business was to have more money. So for the next 12 months, it totally consumed him. Every minute of the day, he was going out there talking to people, he was knocking on doors, he was writing proposals, and in the end, he did raise $100,000 in capital for 33% equity in his business. He even, which was crazy, threw a celebration party as if that was somehow a measure of success. Now, I believed if he had put the same amount of energy and the same amount of passion into actually going out there and making sales, he would have made that money easily, and instead he would have kept his entire company, and what he would have learnt during the process would have been far more valuable than the money that he'd raised. Number 3, it takes away your freedom. I bet one of the reasons why you got into business is so you could have more freedom. Being your own boss and doing what you want, when you want, is pretty cool. For me, I love to travel, and every year I take about 3 or 4 months off and I go traveling with my wife and 2 little kids. Now, imagine if I had investors in my company. How do you think they'd feel if I said, hey guys, I'm just going to go traveling for the next 2 months, I'll see you when I get back? My investors are going to be pissed, and rightly so, for 2 reasons. The first is they don't want me taking any time off, and secondly, they're now going to be questioning every dollar that I spend in my business. Remember, I have their hard-earned cash under my care, so they're totally in their right to say to me, stop spending my money and get back to work. Number 4, it slows down your decision-making ability. Once an investor puts money into your business, they don't normally just sit back and do nothing. With their money on the line, they're going to know what's going on, and they're going to want to feel part of the decision-making process. Now, if they themselves are a successful entrepreneur, then you want their input. However, if they're not, constant meddling will drive you crazy. You could try telling them, look, you don't have any voting rights and you don't have any say, but try saying that to them and see how it goes down. Plus, don't think all those days of writing proposals are over, because now they've only just begun. Now you're going to be writing them 4 times a year to keep all of your investors up to date, and people will soon be asking for dividends and why you're not paying them. And people want to know, when can they see fresh forecast? The result is more time on keeping people happy and less time on actually making money in your business. Number 5, it hurts your reputation. People that go out and raise capital for their business are the eternal optimists. But I'm sure you've got to agree that statistically speaking, the odds are stacked against you, probably by a factor of 10 to 1. So stop and ask yourself the question, what if I take someone else's money and my idea doesn't work? How do you think people are going to feel about you then? Well, the answer is not great. Why do I know this? Well, some years ago when I was much dumber, I invested in a friend's business. He used lines on me like, this is going to be bigger than Google and you need to get in now, otherwise you're going to kick yourself later. Sure enough, his business failed. Now, clearly it was my own fault. However, not everyone's going to feel that way. So if you're going to raise capital, you need to be comfortable with the possibility of harming your business reputation. And even worse, maybe even damaging relationships with family and friends. Number 6, it becomes a ball and chain. Okay, I agree, this video is pretty negative, but let's say you do defy the odds. Let's just say you go and you raise capital and you build a really successful business. Congratulations. But how are you then going to feel about getting up every morning and losing 50% of your profits? Are you going to be excited to get out of bed, and are you going to be motivated to keep driving your business month on month, knowing that a lot of your profits are going elsewhere? Now you could say to yourself, well look, it's only because of the investor that my business has been able to succeed, and you might be totally cool with it. However, over time it might really weigh on you, and you might even go, well look, I now want to take control back of my own business, and now that you have investors on board, they're not all that easy to then remove. Why do I know this? Well, one of my friends had this exact same scenario and decided he wanted to then buy back his shares from the investor and had to mortgage his house to do so, and ended up buying the shares back at a very premium price. So just remember that once you have these investors on board, they're not always that easy to get rid of them. In closing, what you decide to do from this point is totally up to you. My reason for sharing my opinion is simply to tip the scales back, because I think over the last few years they've gotten way out of whack. To entrepreneurs out there, especially you younger ones, remember the goal of business isn't to look successful. The goal of business is to actually be successful, and that means learning how to make money for the long term. Now, if that means going a little bit slower or developing perhaps another business that'll provide you with the cash flow you need to fund your pet project, then you should do it. Or better still, get creative. Because 9 times out of 10, there's another way to get what you want without having to raise capital for your business. Then, when you go on to achieve the massive success that you desire, you'll have the freedom and you'll have the control to enjoy your success. That wraps up this video all about capital raising. Now I'd love to know, what do you think? Leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree that capital raising is a bad idea for a business? Do you know someone that's raised capital and failed? Or do you know someone that's raised capital and it's worked great? I'd really love to know what you think either way. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd really encourage you to click the like button, and why don't you share it with other entrepreneurs that you know, because I think this is an important message that everybody needs to hear. If you're not already there, head to businessblueprint.com, because that's where you can get access to a ton of additional resources to help you take your business to the next level without having to raise capital. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Business Blueprint. To access more great content, visit businessblueprint.com.